Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
David?
Hey, Mike. David Moore, Dallas Morning News. When you were talking to the coaches you had here for the training session on Monday, I think one of the things you said was that looking back, you wish as a younger coach you would have listened more. That is one thing. Is that a message you give to the players and your staff, kind of setting up every year?
I mean, absolutely. I think it's more than ever, just in a generation, that we're coaching and just, as you've seen over time, because frankly, because part of the message was we were talking about access to information, and just really the schematic, growth opportunity that you have as a coach, in the 90s and the 80s and you first get into it. I mean, if you didn't have someone, if you weren't in the meeting and if you weren't tied to, to somebody, you didn't get the specifics and the nuances and the detail, even really frankly the plays. And then now, take the next step is the video. To have access to pro video back then was like gold. I mean, I can remember being at University of Pittsburgh and actually John Gruden was the assistant coach and whatever the Super Bowl when the 49ers beat the Broncos 55 to it was and we were able to get a hold of the Betacam just of the game, and it was like gold. I mean, we sat there and broke down every play. John called out every, and and that was the difference. Where today it's on the internet. I mean, you can get the 22 coaches copy, and you have access to the pretty much the same video that we have, and I that's just really the difference in generations. So I think that there's so much access of quality information for young coaches to develop on, but the real value is in the nuances of teaching the technique and how are you coaching that play, and obviously with the youth football coaches and the whether it's high school, we're running a lot of the same schematic plays from a design standpoint, but how are you coaching it? That's where the values. I mean, how are we coaching a 4 vertical scheme today as we did the last 3 years? I mean, so everybody views that differently, and I think that's really the specifics of how you can be better as a coach and make your players play faster and all those things.
Clarence Hill, Football Star Telegram. Talk to Steve and Jerry there. They would like to get a couple of guys signed the contract extensions before training camp and maybe before the season. What is your mindset on that? Do you want this business taken care of before the season starts and so the players won't be distracted during the season?
The reality of it is, answering that question 16, 17 years ago, I would have answered a lot differently. I think now having the opportunity to watch, players, coaches, and individuals go through their career, we all have contracts. So it's the business part of that really it's individualized between ownership and the individual. So, and that's why I've always just kind of categorized it. It's a business matter. My father taught me at a young age, and I never really understood it, but, you don't talk about another man's money. And I think, and then the second part was, don't tell anybody about your money. But that's very healthy advice. I mean, it's those are business matters, and everybody goes through it differently. And everybody has representation or they don't have representation. So it's never exactly the same, and you have to respect that. That's part of working in the National Football League.
Mike Todd, Archer, the ESPN. With Damone Clark, when did you guys feel comfortable that last year that he was going to be able to help you, and what are the expectations for him coming into having a full off-season training camp, all that kind of stuff?
Well, I think Damone's just another great example of able to watch a young man or someone coming off of rehab. You don't get to see him every day. We get to see just the way he attacked his medical situation and really the way he poured into it. So and frankly, I was a little nervous because we were so excited to get him out there because of his everyday performance and what he poured into it. But obviously the surgery was of significance. So I mean, that's, to me, it was the starting line. So I mean, he's a young man that's obviously has a lot of excellent football in front of him, and but it really started last year, watching himself get ready for his opportunity to play. So I think, like a lot of guys, you're learning it, you're understanding it. You think you know the why, but you really don't know the why, and that's why that second year jump is so big, and that's why these off-season programs are, a tremendous asset to these younger players. I mean, how are they going to make the jump? And and he's just the way he's wired. I mean, he's got great work ethic. He's got a smile on his face. His energy's awesome every single day, and and that's all part of his growth.
Hi, Coach. Bree Amaranthus, SI. How would you describe Tony Pollard's leadership style?
I'll tell you what, he's a little bit like E.F. Hutton, to show my age here, but the commercial. But now watching him, assert himself more. He has a commanding presence, and I think he's done an excellent job with the younger players. I mean, you can see how they look up to him, and Tony always asks excellent questions, because we're doing some things a little differently, protection-wise, a little different, as far as our coursework and things in the run game, and Tony has a really good feel of how things fit together, and he's a great example for our younger players.
I know Zeke was kind of goofy in the locker room. How would you describe Tony that way as well, or?
Well, I mean, the locker room's the locker room. I think the things that go on in the locker room now, the locker room in the National Football League's probably been unlocked now for about 15 to 18 years. But I always still viewed it as their space, and Zeke has a tremendous personality, so I'm sure it comes out in that setting. But Zeke was a tremendous teammate, and Zeke was a tremendous example for those guys too. And I think if Tony was standing there, he would compliment Zeke on showing him the way as a young player. So yeah, Tony Pollard does it the right way. He kind of reminds me, growing up in my household as a kid. If my dad wasn't talking to me, I knew I was doing a hell of a job. So I don't have to say much to Tony. So.
Kyle Yeomans, DallasCowboys.com. How has Matt Waletzko improved coming off of the injury, and why is he a possible candidate to possibly move inside?
Well, I think it's like all young players. You really don't know until you get in there and see what their capabilities. A little bit like Damone Clark. We talked about just to watch Matt in there every day. He didn't miss a workout session or rehab. We put a tremendous amount of extra time and energy to the shoulder recovery, and then you watch him come out of college. Hey, this guy's got a little better feet than we probably realized. So, and obviously playing tackle with his length, and when he walks in the door, it's easy to think, hey, this guy's going to be a left or right tackle in his career. But he has really shown the ability to bend inside, and so as always, with the offensive line, and just the way we're going about it this week, position flex is important. I mean, it's part of the design of the 53-man roster, or even more so the 48-man when you get to the games. So, everybody's been very, very impressed with Matt. He's having a heck of an offseason.
Skyler Dixon with the AP. Zach Martin yesterday talked about there being kind of an edge to the offense with you in charge of play calling. He struggled to quantify that other than to say, well, Mike's a Pittsburgh guy. And how are things a little bit different from your point of view as you go through this?
I think it's the accent, Skyler. That's all I got for you. But no, I it's just like anything. I think it goes back to the question about talking to the youth coaches. We all have a vision of what plays and schemes we want to run, but at the end of the day, you want your team to look a certain way, play a certain way, and it's no different for the offensive unit, defensive unit, and special teams. So I mean, I have a style of play that we all are demanding from one another, as far as coaches to coaches and players to players and coach to players, so and player to coach. So I mean, that's all part of it. You have to play with an edge. At the end of the day, where do you develop the confidence? Where does the growth of confidence come from? Well, you can't wait to find out if you're going to win the game. That starts from day one in the preparation. So the way, this offensive coaching staff, the personalities are different. And that's part of making changes, and the way we talk to the offense is a bit different than the past, and that's just our style, but at the end of the day, it has to be the player style. It has to be their mindset, because they're the ones that cross the white lines and play the game.
Coach, Justin Tavares, DallasCowboys.com. Can you talk about the potential that Semi Fioco really has to grow within this offense?
Yeah, Semi. I mean, you look at his body type, and and you forget how fast he is. I mean, look at he come off that injury situation, and then later in the season, there's a lot of conversation of having him come up and play down the stretch because he was practicing so well, particularly when we got to the playoffs. So, and he's carried that over to the offseason. I think just like any of these younger players, they know they learn the offense, then they understand the offense, but now they got to make the offense work for them and clearly understand where they are as far as they fit and responsibility. And Simmy's very bright, very instinctive, and you guys are probably tired. He's had a hell of an off season. So.
Mike McCarthy, Dallas Morning News. Calvin Joseph, how would you describe his transition to nickel spot, and what are the kind of next steps to solidify his acclimation there?
I'll just say this, Michael. I think this is the best stretch for Calvin, that he's had since he's been here. I think it's the opportunity at nickel. You can see his height and awareness. I think where he's at in his development, because there's nothing that he can't do physically. But now having an understanding, I think going in and playing nickel. What I like about it, I think it's clearly made him better outside because he's seen how it fits together. It helps with the instincts and the concept, understanding the match coverage, understandings. You can see his instincts in the vision defense. So I think he's having a really good off season. I think this is his best stretch of football since he's been here.
Babe Loffenberg, Cowboys Radio Network. We all obviously have a finite amount of time in our day, and your time is going to be allocated more offensive meetings and taking on that responsibility. Have you thought, looking ahead to the season, where are you going to have to pull back a little bit? Things that you used to do that you won't be able to do?
Great question. This past weekend, we spent the Saturday and Sunday just on the in-season schedule, going back through the specifics. A team meeting cut from 30 minutes to 25 minutes because I want more time with the quarterback, so I get to make that choice. But just things like that. So we're already working on that. We've been together now a couple years. So the templates for the team meetings, we've already started that. John Fossil and Ryan Feeder, I've given them some of the responsibility of the team meeting, and just to get that process going, and it'll continue through training camp, and will all lead to the end season. So it's just like anything. When you take on more responsibility, you have to delegate some more responsibility, and I'm very, very fortunate to have an excellent staff that I have great confidence in. So yeah, that process, and that's really what this month of June is about. We have training camp done. We'll take another lap through training camp, and with the coaches. The coaches are already starting to script training camp. I've always liked to have training camp done the same time as the OTAs because OTA 1 matches the first day of training camp, so things you don't quite get done. It's a healthier, more efficient process that way. So and now we're working on the in-season schedule. The 17th game it's a long year. And one of the things that came out of the exit interviews was, is there more rest and recovery in there, for the players, and that that in itself will benefit the coaches, because if we're giving them more time to take care of themselves on a Monday, that gets us on to the next game plan probably a little quicker. So we've looked at all those things, and that's what this time of year, and really it's a lot of it's a carryover from the exit interviews with the coaches and the players after the season. So because you're always tweaking and adjusting. Just like we talk about culture in here all the time. The way you train the team, you're always looking to improve. Part of the training of the football team, how you schedule your football team, really I always viewed that as me competing against the other 31 head coaches. That's our competition, because at the end of the day, we have to get the team trained to win games, and how you schedule them, how much you travel, when you get home, all those things factor. We're the Dallas Cowboys. We get home late. We played a lot of national games, and that adds up. And coming from experience, when you work at a place that's right in the middle of the country, and half your flights home are 50 minutes, an hour. I used to get home in Green Bay, go to the office, shower, set up everything for the next day, dress for the next day, go home, and still see my kids at 7:30. So those days are over, and so I take that experience, and now what are my players going through? They're getting home 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and so at the end of the day, their recovery is always at the forefront of my mindset.
John Michaud, The Athletic. With Tyler Smith, when he talks to us, it seems like that left guard, left tackle, it's not a big deal for him. Like, it's an easy transition either way. Is he wired the right way for that, or is that just today's NFL? You're going to have to play more than one position.
I mean, it was really cool to watch the tape of him yesterday because he looked like he's been lined up at left guard all off season. So, my goal when we started was, let's make sure Tyler's ready to play left tackle, and I feel like we've accomplished that because he's been here the whole time. We call concept teaching, so we're able to get through everything that's going to be asked of him at left tackle, through phase 1 and phase 2 in the classroom, and then he was able to rep it all, in the first 5, OTAs. So we have great confidence that he's ready to go left tackle, and then obviously his experience at left guard, last year pays to it. So that's why we wanted to finish with these 3 practice of having him and Tyron working together on the left side. So, yeah, he was very, very comfortable over there.
Mike, with the changes you've made on offense, is there anything you've learned about Dak this offseason that you hadn't known, like how he learns, what he likes, what he does, now that you guys are more closely together?
I'll tell you what, it was really cool. Matt Hasselbach was in here yesterday, so I have a history with Matt. Coached him in 1999, and and Matt and Dak are pretty like-minded quarterbacks. So, the one thing, we had a conversation about the development and training of the quarterback, and the one thing that's consistent, that you cannot challenge these guys enough. And I love the way we've challenged Dak mentally, and more importantly, I love the way he's attacked it. So, it's I wouldn't say I didn't know it about him. I just think it's just just like all of us. You don't really know until you really go out there and stress and push. But he's really handled these changes and adjustments. The input, because at the end of the day, the quarterback, and it's just the way I've always done it. It was like in Green Bay and all the way back to New Orleans. They need to own the offense. I have no interest in being known as some guru coach or a smart coach. I'm a smart Hall of Fame type quarterbacks. The only way to get there is you got to make them own the offense. And you see it. He has the personality, but it's just like anything. So, this is our first year of playing the way we want to play. And he's done a really good job of taking ownership of that, and then with that, the mental challenges, he's knocked it out of the park.
How do you see that? Is it the questions that he's asking you guys? Is it how he's approaching teammates in between plays or in meetings and things like that?
I look at this whole training process as, number 1, you have educations, 2 is application, and 3 is evaluation. So, the education part of it, we've kind of already been through that aspect of it. We were able to accomplish that in, phase 1 and phase 2. So he knows how we're going to do it. But now it's the application. We have a pass play in our offense called Duquesne. Obviously it's from Pittsburgh, so it's just tied to that. But so Duquesne, so we had that whole conversation, and then Duquesne Dukes. So he asked a question in front of everybody. He says, "Well, so Coach, how do you want to call it?" I said, "What's your huddle? How do you want to call it?" He said, "Duquesne." I said, "It's Duquesne." If I say Duquesne and Dukes, you know what I'm talking about. Just call Duquesne. So I mean and I just have always done it that way. They're the ones in the huddle, and what you learn over time is, each quarterback's a little different. Some guys want to play, get off the headset. Some guys want to play, and coaching points, it's in that, and some guys want to play and they want to get to the line of scrimmage and orchestrate it. Some guys want to play and they want to tell everybody what to do. So I mean, so there's different personalities in the quarterback, but at the end of the day, it's all about, what tempo are we in. We have 5 different huddle combinations that we want to be in. So, as long as we're adherent to what we're trying to get done, that's his huddle, and when Cooper's in there, it's his huddle. When Will's in there, it's his huddle. And that's the way I think I always found to be the most effective for the quarterback. So, I mean, it's just like the meetings. We want these guys speaking up in meetings. The questions can't be. We've had our opportunity to go up and say, hey, this is what we think. Now there's a lot of Q&A, back and forth, interaction. We get to training camp. I mean, our installs will be bada boom, bada bing, and then we got to get to the real stuff. We got to get to Dak at the line and make sure we're seeing the things and getting the communication, because I've said it already. Those guys play the game, and he's the leader of the band out there.
Jonah Javad, WFAA. What were you hoping when you signed Stephon Gilmore? And I know it's early, but so far, how has he kind of lived up to what you were hoping?
Well, I think it's like anything in this league. You see you have players that you really like from across the field, and you admire. I've always admired his game, and more importantly, you can see the cerebral, aspect of it. He has a really good understanding. You could see it right away. Just we're really only been in 7-on-7, but his understanding of route trees, time clocks, of quarterback. So that's real apparent in his ability to play the football. He plays with really good vision. And one thing that I'm huge in is just we want defensive back to have excellent ball skills, and he has that too. And I think that's been a real asset of our football team the last couple of years. I mean, all our guys are good ball skill guys, and so he really fits in. And then you got he has a lot of experience. He has a lot to offer. Right? I think the one thing you got to always watch as a head coach when you're draft and develop, and I fell into it, is you have your way of doing things because you guys you're bringing them in and this is all they know. So I've always found it refreshing when you have a veteran player that comes in and is wired the right way to share and expose. He brings that experience and credibility the day he walked in the building, and he's truly upheld that.
Coach McCarthy, Chuck McCarthy, Fox San Antonio. How has the role, since you've been in the league, of equipment manager changed over the years, and how well do your guys, Mike and Bucky, do their job?
Are you a friend of Mike and Bucky's? I'm just kidding. Love Mike and Bucky, and I've been fortunate. I mean, between Mike and Bucky and Red Batty up in Green Bay and Chief Simmons over in New Orleans, I've had a chance to work with these Hall of Fame equipment guys, and talked a little bit about this. I think it was yesterday. Talk about bartenders. I mean, these guys spend so much time with your football team, and the quality of the person is obviously so important, and obviously the expertise and what they bring. So I mean, Bucky runs our practice too. So I mean, Bucky's just not equipment. So he's you could say field manager. So I work as closely with Bucky probably than anybody during practice. So in Mike's experience and just knowing how to get things done is at the highest level. So. Both these guys are awesome. I mean, the other part too is you look at Dylan and the young crew that they have. Blake, best smile in the organization. So you got a lot of really good young guys are developing too. So, and I think that's important, and I think it tells you a lot about Mike and Bucky. But no, they do an incredible job. I appreciate you asking about those guys. They're awesome.
All right, we got to run.
Good. All right, thank you.